The 60-meter dash at the World Indoor Championships are finally here. And leading up to this event, there's been a whole lot more conversation about which athletes are not competing in it than the ones who actually are. Because Olympic silver medalist Sireece Thompson told us he was going to show up, and then he also told us shortly thereafter that he wasn't coming to the track. And I never expected, just to clarify, whether Noah Lyles or Christian Coleman were going to show up this year, after they went 1-2 last year at the World Indoors, and for the record, Christian Coleman was in front. But although only one man from the 100-meter dash in Paris showed up to the starting line for this event, I am an actual track and field fan, which is why I stayed up early in the morning till like 2 a.m. and watched every single heat of the men's 60-meter dash. And yes, it took a long time, because heading into this meet, Lachie Kennedy of Australia was labeled as the fastest man in the world this year in the 60-meter dash for a time that he ran outdoors. But this is a World Indoor Championship, so I wanted to see if he, as well as everybody else who was running outdoors, were actually going to put up numbers when they got to this track. And now we have our answer. So here is what really happened in the men's 60-meter dash heats, if you actually care about it. Because by the time you watch this video, I'll be honest, the final might have already gone, because they're doing a morning session, then an evening session. But that's over in China. If you're over here in the States, like the United States of America, by the time the final goes off, you might be waking up in the morning. Just being real. But the athletes who show up in the heats all have a narrative. And that narrative is for them to become a world indoor champion. And you can't do it if you fail to qualify out of the heats to begin with. So I'm going to go over every single race and give you the bullet points. And then beyond that, I'm going to tell you what it all means. Because this meet is actually getting very interesting. But then again, that's only if you actually like track and field and like want to see fast men compete against each other in a race that is supposed to matter. And gold medals don't grow on trees. So whether or not it's indoors or outdoors, somebody's about to become a world champion really soon. The action got going immediately in Heat 1 because Akani Simbine of South Africa was the only man from that Olympic final to show up to the starting line. He went 6.57 seconds and won his heat. It really wasn't all that close. But this man barely ever runs to 60. The only stats I could find was like one 60-meter dash race he ran in 2023 up until this season. For all I know, that one might have been outdoors. But if he wins World Indoors, it would be his first world-level gold medal, either indoors or outdoors. And anyway, you already know he's fast, so we're going to move on. In Heat 2, Kobe Hilton of America, who actually finished second at the USA's, did win his heat, but he only ran 6.70 seconds. And if you weren't watching the race, allow me to fill you in. This race was so close that there were 4 men who all ran 6.70 seconds, and it was the 1,000th place that separated all of them. But Kobe Hilton technically got the victory, so he, along with some other men, are qualifying through to the next round. And here's where the plot gets interesting, because in Heat 3, I'll be honest, I don't actually remember who won that heat. And I'm not looking it up right now because, like I said, it's already 2 in the morning. But Nishiani Banks of Jamaica was in that heat, who was second to Sireece Thompson in his 6.48 second, minus 2.1, like negative 2.1 wind, outdoor 60-meter dash. Nishiani Banks did not win his heat. He ran 6.70 seconds, but it was one of the slower heats that we had, like top to bottom, throughout the entire meet. He actually got third. He was ahead at like 40 meters, he just didn't get to the line in front. So with all that being said, he may make it through to the semifinals, like on time, but I'm not betting that he's gonna make it to the final. Certainly not with that performance. Moving on. In the 4th heat, we actually had a shocker, but that's only for people who really love track and field, like the type of folk who have a Flow Track subscription. Eloy Benitez of Puerto Rico went 6.49 seconds, I believe the fastest time that we saw throughout any of the heats, to not just win it, but break his national record along the way. He was in a heat with Ali Anwar Al-Balushi. If you don't know who he is, allow me to remind you, or I guess maybe tell you for the first time, that he's actually fast. And if you're watching Sireece Thompson during that one indoor race in Kazakhstan that he actually ran, he was the man right behind him in second place. So yes, he was supposed to win this heat, and that's not what happened. But if you're new here, I want to say thank you for even making it this far into the video. And I'm Coach Rob, the founder of SCArecruiting.com, where I rank the best track and field recruits across the entire nation. And if anything that I say actually connects with you, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe. But if I don't, just let me know in the comment section, because I try to read them all. When it comes to Heat 5, I'm not even going to pretend that it was more dramatic than it actually was, because Ronnie Baker of America was supposed to win that heat. And that's exactly what he did. It didn't even look that competitive, like he started shutting it down in the last 5 to 10 meters. But Ronnie Baker didn't just win the USA's this year. He's one of the fastest men to ever run the 60-meter dash, like all time, like number 3 on that list. And he's also an Olympian from 2021, in case anybody was paying attention, and he was in the 100-meter final. So, if you think he's the favorite going to this meet, you would not be alone. He does have competition, and I'm going to get to some of them in a moment. That said, he took care of business in the first round. And from that point on in the meet, everybody else got the memo that you actually had to run fast if you wanted to win a heat. So that's exactly what Benjamin Azu did of Great Britain. He went 6.53 seconds to win his heat. And I'm pretty sure if you ask him, he thinks he should be the favorite. But when you show up to a world championship and people haven't seen you in major finals and win medals yet, well, this is the moment when you're supposed to pull that off. So we're going to see what happens in the final on whether it actually does happen. It's the most anticipated heat for anybody who actually watched the meet had to be Heat 7, because Lachie Kennedy of Australia and Tian Welton of New Zealand both showed up in that heat. If you heard about Lachie Kennedy's 6.43 seconds, like the race he ran in Australia outdoors, Tian Welton was the guy right behind him. He ran 6.50 in that race. So they were in the same heat. And the same way they went 1-2 in that Australian race, they went 1-2 in this heat. So they didn't run as fast as they did in the past. Lachie Kennedy went 6.53 seconds, which is legitimately fast. Like, it was one of the top qualifiers. So he's backing it up that, like, the 60, he can actually do this. And apparently this was his first indoor race. But no matter what anybody else has to say about it, he has now run an indoor race and gave us a pretty fast one at that. So he's likely going to be there in the final. And if you want to win a gold medal, I'm officially now going to say you are probably going to have to go through him in order to get it. And in the final heat, it was Rohan Watson of Jamaica who made pretty quick work of the field. He went 6.54 seconds to make it clear that he belongs in the final. He's just going to have to prove it in the semis, which is like 1 hour before the final, and it's going to go off like 6-7 hours from now, or at least from the time I'm recording this video. But hey, it is what it is. I told you I would tell you what this all means. Well, this is what we learned. Obviously, the 60-meter dash is going to have a field that bunches itself up. But when you look at who actually showed up compared to who didn't show up, if you did not show up to this meet, I'm not here to say you were scared. Like, that's not what I'm trying to say, but I am saying you weren't going to win without actually having to try. See, last year, Noah Lyles and Christian Coleman had put times on the board before the World Indoor Championships that made it clear they were the class of the field. And then they ran to the front of the race at the World Indoor Championships. It just is what it is. They were the best. If you take them off the board, there's nobody else in the world who was going to come to this meet and was going to be a lock to win. I know I said what I said, but there just wasn't that person. Because Shane Thompson would have been a favorite, and he would have still have to go out there and prove it. But considering all of the things that are swirling around, the whole indoor-outdoor debate, indoor is essentially a proving ground. So for the people who ran fast outdoors in the 60, they had to come to World Indoors. Like the ones who weren't already Olympians, or at least not individual Olympians. Because Lachie Kennedy was there at the Olympics. He was just running on a relay, so nobody really noticed because they weren't in the final. But now, he's not just running on a relay, he's running individually with a world medal in his sights. Of course, I would love to see just about like everybody who competed at the Olympics in the 100, certainly everybody who was in the final. Shout out to Akani Simbini for actually showing up. But like, there were still men who were in the semifinals who weren't in this meet as well. I'm not looking at the list right now, but I can think of a whole bunch of names off the top of head who were not on the starting line. So we are watching a bunch of fast men. But no, we have no idea what this field would actually look like if the men who probably are faster than these guys through we know they're faster through 100, But what would they look like if they actually tried to do it in the 60? But this is the state of world indoors, where somebody is still going to get a gold medal, which is going to make them a world champion in the 60-meter dash, because you can only race against the men who actually show up in the other lanes. Because this is the sport of track and field, where, for the most part, in the eyes of a casual fan, which hopefully some of you actually make it over to pay attention to world indoors, even like a little bit. But to them, if you're not in first place, even if you got to do it by 1,000th of a second, you might as well be in last. And that's that. In the sport of track and field, confidence is everything. Because when you win, that is just the moment when everybody else finds out what you already knew to be true. That fast is a lifestyle. Get your Fast is a Lifestyle track and field gear at scarecruiting.com/shop. Or use the link in the description below. It's a huge support to me and this channel, so I can continue to make you more content like this. And remember, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe.